I would like to mention here that if the projects are planned well, then the executives during the execution stage as well as the maintenance GE will face the minimum problem. Though in this context, I would like to mention one of the country, it has planned the things for 20 years and did execution in 2 years. In that project, they took almost 20 years of time for the planning. They went into each and every details of the project. However, when it comes to execution, because of the detailed planning, it just took 2 years. So now coming on to the topic, I will be telling about the importance of the pre-ADAM planning stages. So every original work, it passes through important stages of before being administratively approved. So pre-ADAM stage is designed to give a detailed consideration of project commensurate with the economy of engineer effort. So meticulous and detailed preparation of board proceedings is essential for effective and efficient outcome of any project. Tree cutting must be ensured before tender presentation. Demolition of buildings must be accurately covered in BPs. Ensure phase 1 to be constructed in open spaces. At the board stage, gentlemen, first of all, we must ensure that availability of A1 defense land, requirement of accommodation is as per authorization of the scales of accommodation. Then accommodation state 1, it should be as per the WE/PE of whatever is the MOD has authorized. Then accommodation state part 2 for proposal accommodation of engineer authority based on existing assets. At the board stage, gentlemen, again these are the issues like zonal plans. It must be ensured that the KLP is as per the zonal plan if the KLP is coming up. Special items whichever the users are projecting, if they are not part of the scales of accommodation, there has to be a separate statement of case which has to be initiated, justified for special items. Electrical and water supply calculation along with the availability of electrical and water supply. Tree cutting and encumbrance free certificate has to be attached with the board proceeding. Clearance of CFEs as applicable wherever the ammunition and other ordnance related projects are involved. Detailed site analysis to be undertaken based on the site condition and assets required. Availability of the approach road for construction of the proposed accommodation, that must not be forgotten during the planning stage. Now gentlemen, coming on to the execution stage, so that these issues which were taken care during the pre-ADAM planning are also having encumbrance free site must be ensured much before the tender execution. In fact, during the tender presentation, a certificate which was given during the ADAM planning should be checked on ground whether the trees are free from the site or any other encumbrances are present. Sample approval of major items, it should be ensured through the PMG. Necessary DOs, they should be identified at early stages once the project comes for the execution. Frequent suggestions of the PMGs to include new technology in case feasible. This should be addressed during the pre-administration planning, not during the execution state. Finalization of furniture and arboriculture contracts in time. Monitoring of JEs on the daily basis and AGs on alternate days and Gs on weekly basis. Ensure preparation of the RARs timely, because the most and the biggest motivating factor for any of the contractor in MES is if he gets its timely payment, he will be able to execute with the time frame. Now gentlemen, coming to the conclusion part of the briefing, presiding officer must be well aware of exact requirement of scope of work. Engineer authorities should ensure proper site visit and analysis. There are so many technical board of officers being ordered in the past. There are so many black demonstration of the projects which because of the non-alertness and because of the shortcuts at the executive levels, the improper planning, frequent site changes. So these all should be as far as possible avoided. Explore consultancy services wherever the engineer authorities are not having expertise if required. Change of site should be discouraged during currency of work, which invariably requires redesign of structures based on soil strata and concurrence of the next higher CFA. Change in scope in work during the currency of work beyond CA provisions, which requires to be regularized through DOs and star rates, will lead to delay in the projects. And again, executives have to approach towards the CFA for extension of PDCs. So one must ensure timely handing over of the site. Some shelters has to be demolition of these shelters. It should be done in the phase wise manner. Whichever site is clear of the encumbrances, it should be considered as phase 1, and that phase 1 can also be divided into sub phases depending on availability of the site free of the encumbrances. One must keep in mind that during the completion stage also the phasing can be done. Those accommodations which were catered in phase 1, if they are completed as per the PDC, they should be handed over and there should be provision, so that the extension of PDC and loss of time is not to both the parties, that is the user as well as the execution. Another important aspect, for example, special repairs of married accommodation, one must ensure that the availability of the quarters, the moment the tender action is completed, it can be divided into phase wise, and these quarters can be handed over for the execution for the contractor in time. Let us say there are 200 quarters and the capability, and as per CA the time is given, let us say 2 years. So, it must be ensured that the phasing is done 6 months accordingly and projects are executed. Cancellation and slow progress by contractor concluding to risk and cost leads to the arbitration cases. Every GE office is handling at least 3 to 4 arbitration cases, that awards are resulted into the favor of contractor, because this advantage of poor planning on behalf of the executives, the advantage is taken by these contractors. So, in any case of loss to state to outcome of arbitration, it pinpoints the responsibility to individual both in the pre-ADAM as well as post-ADAM, and strict and stringent actions are being taken. So, it is better to avoid all these kind of things. So, in the end, gentlemen, I would just like to conclude that more efforts, if at the pre-ADAM planning has been done, it will lead to smooth execution and very minuscule maintenance efforts. Thank you.